Good afternoon. You're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Friday. All right, the main index starting the week in the red, and it will end the week on the same footing, failing to stay afloat even once this week. Taking a look at this chart right here, you'd see it's 6 straight days of losses for the PSEI as it caps off the week down by 1 3/10%, descending below 7,100 yet again to 7,045.83. The index slipping 3.1% during the 6-day period. This is its sharpest decline since September of 2020. It's also 6 straight days of net foreign selling, with Friday posting net sales of 1.4 billion pesos, the most since November of 2020. Now, Manny Cruz of Papa Security says the market is going on a correction on relentless selling on account of overextended valuation and signs that economic recovery will not be as strong as expected. Now, signs of which include Nissan's local assembly operations closing shop, as well as the Banco Central's recent view on inflation, which they project to stay above the midpoint of their 2 to 4% target band before slowing down to below 3% in the second half. Now, Cruz sees the bourse retesting the 6,700 bottom by the end of November, should it be unable to actually maintain support at 6,900 in the near term. But the fallout is no longer just contained here in the Philippines. Allow me to switch my charts just for now. Most Asian stocks here halted their rally Friday after registering all-time highs here. This as restrictions are imposed in the hopes of curbing growing infections. Case in point would have to be Hong Kong, where officials for the first time will be reportedly putting tens of thousands of residents on lockdown due to an outbreak. Taking a look at the Hang Seng here, it is down by as much as 1 4/10%, but it's really a sea of red here for the rest of Asia. Japanese indices here not being spared. The topics edging lower by 0.2%. The Nikkei likewise in the red, down 0.4%. You also have a number of Chinese stocks here. The Shanghai, as you can see here, is also up, in the red, 0.4%. Shenzhen, however, managing to stay afloat here, up 0.3%. Kospi, as you can see as well here, is in the red, declining by 0.6%. Now, back to our shores here. Let's have a quick check of our leaders and laggards here for the day. Only a number of stocks here ending the day in the green. Let me just fix this one here. You'd see one of our worst performers would have to be PLDT. It is down by 3.1% here, as well as a number of conglomerates here. SM, as you can see, also in the red, slipping by 3%. On the other end of the spectrum, you have GT Capital here gaining up 1.8%. Ayala Corporation likewise gaining almost as much, as well as San Miguel Corporation in the positive territory here, up 1.2%. Some specific stocks, though, to be watching out for. Let's have a quick check first of Cebu Pacific. The Philippine Stock Exchange has approved the carrier's plan to sell dollar-denominated convertible preferred shares with a value of $250 million and a par value of 1 peso a share. Pricing date has been set for February 4, with rights offer beginning February 26 up to March 4. Before that news even came out, the stock managed to buck the sell-off in the index, capping off the day with a 1% gain to 50 pesos and 10 centavos a piece. Now, moving over to a property player, Century Properties, this time getting the green light from the SEC for its 3-year bond offering worth 2 billion pesos, with a window to actually sell 1 billion pesos more should it be oversubscribed. The SEC says the proceeds will help fund maturing debt, fund capital expenditures, and general corporate requirements as well. Not much of an approval, though, from investors. CPG joins the retreat in the index here, down 1.1% to 44 centavos a share. Now, here are other stories from the corporate front. Globe said its 5G network already covers 80% of Metro Manila. The company says it has upgraded nearly 900 sites into 5G-ready locations, and the business districts of Makati, Bonifacio, Global City, and Ortigas have a minimum coverage of 95%. Globe is also working on installing more 5G-ready sites outside Metro Manila. A 5G coverage in Cebu is now 61%, while Davao City is at 60%. Globe, however, ended the week in the red, down nearly 2% at 2,060 pesos per share. Now, moving to utilities, three groups have raised their bids in Meralco's competitive selection process for its 1,800 megawatts power supply offer for the year 2024 to 2025. Philippine Star reports that as a result, aggregate offered capacity now totals 7,000 megawatts from the original 6,050 megawatts offered during the start of the bidding process. Higher bids from power generators would mean better prices for millions of Meralco's customers. Meralco received 18 expressions of interest for the bidding, but only 17 firms joined the pre-bid conference. Meralco shares, however, are still down for a second straight day at 285 pesos apiece. That's down 0.4% in today's trade. Now, here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. Congress has reconciled provisions in the measure seeking to amend the country's anti-money laundering law. Both the House of Representatives and the Senate ratified House Bill 7904, which seeks more stringent provisions to the Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2001. House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco says the timely passage of the measure would help prevent the country by Paris-based watchdog Financial Action Task Force, or FATF, at least the inclusion in the gray list. The FATF has given the Philippine government until February 1 to implement changes in its anti-money laundering law. Velasco said the final version of the amendments to the AMLA will be sent immediately to President Duterte for signing. Now, the central bank sees inflation staying within target range within the next 2 years due to supply disruptions from typhoons. Despite the recent uptick in global oil and food prices, the Banco Central says inflation would remain benign, averaging 3.2% this year and around 2.9% in 2022. The BSP has kept its inflation target range at 2 to 4% until 2024. BSP OIC Francis Daquila said risks to inflation trajectory remain tilted to the downside due to slow recovery in consumption and continued risks from the pandemic. He noted the possibility of upside inflation risks due to supply-side push from weather disturbances and rising crude oil prices. Now, much remains to be seen when it comes to the country's progress on solid waste management, but one of the country's top cement manufacturers is helping the nation make strides on that front through co-processing. To discuss more, we have Alan Cuyno. He is the new developments project manager of Holcim unit Geocycle. Good afternoon, Alan. So to kick things off, let's first discuss how much of a serious problem is waste management still in the Philippines. Were enough landfills built since the law of ecological waste management was established?
Hi, good afternoon, Jess. So currently, we are producing at least 40,000 tons of waste per day. This is about 100 Olympic-sized swimming pools that we fill up every single day. And as you've mentioned, most of this still ends up in a landfill. So imagine the amount of wastes that is being stored in those landfill every day.
Okay. Now, on whose shoulder does a solution rest more on? The assumption, of course, is that it's heavily reliant on the public sector, but how much of it also lies on the private sector?
So I would say it should be a holistic approach, Jess. Everyone should pitch in, public, the private sector, and even the government. For the private sector, um, most of the private sector could offer improvements or even diversion from landfills by sample using co-processing for the residual wastes fraction of the generated wastes.
Okay, good thing that you mentioned about co-processing. This is something that Holcim has been very keen on. But just to give our viewers an idea, what exactly is co-processing and how does this help neutralize waste? And how is it different from incineration? Of course, there are concerns about the possibility of at least producing toxic fumes.
So co-processing has been globally accepted for 40 years now, and Holcim Philippines is a pioneer here in the Philippines for almost 2 decades already. We have started in 2003 co-processing. So how is it different from incineration is that first, we only accept segregated waste materials, wherein incinerators usually get mixed waste. We advocate reduction, avoidance of wastes being generated. And also, in terms of organics, um, we would want for the organics not to end up in co-processing or in landfills. We want it, of course, to be composted, because if it would end up in landfills, it would just generate methane, which is a lot more harmful to the environment compared to carbon dioxide.
Okay, when you hear Holcim, the general perception, of course, is that you are a cement manufacturer. So why at least divert your attention as well when it comes to waste management through co-processing? What's in it for Holcim, and how is this bound to help the company's operations?
So Holcim, as you've mentioned, is a cement manufacturer. It just so happens that when manufacturing cement, the conditions are perfect for waste management as well, for sorted municipal solid waste, for example. We operate at 2000 degrees Celsius. So basically, what we do is we convert the wastes into alternative fuels, which we use to fuel our cement kilns. So the advantage of this for us, this reduces our carbon footprint. Imagine for 2019, we were able to co-process around 130,000 tons of alternative fuels, which roughly estimates to around 1.2 million trees that are being planted. So this is somehow the rough estimate on the impact of the co-processed volumes that we have for 2019.
Okay, and lastly now, just how wide are your Geocycle co-processing operations, and which sectors and areas are you catering, and what are your specific targets for the year?
Okay, for the year, we are actually investing 120 million pesos to improve our capacity. So, as mentioned earlier, we are at 130,000 tons for 2020. Sorry, that's for 2020. But we intend in 10 years' time to double that number. So, in terms of how we would be operating this, we expect to get to provide solutions to our local government units and even to to the industrial sector, who would be really interested in making their operations a lot more sustainable.
All right, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Here's to hoping that at least you get to widen your operations more so as to help at least the public sector when it comes to managing waste. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Alan Cuyno, New Developments Project Manager of Geocycle. And those are the biggest news this trading day, January 22, 2021. Catch Businessworld live again Monday next week at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News.